So in ancient Israel, Samson was no ordinary man. He was chosen by God from birth, set apart to be a Nazarite, which is a man dedicated to serving God. Blessed with superhuman strength, his long hair was a symbol of his covenant with God, a source of strength and divine purpose. But Samson had a weakness, one that many of us can relate to: emotional attachments. Despite his God-given mission to lead Israel and fight the Philistines, Samson was drawn to a woman who did not share his faith or values. And that is where Delilah enters this story. So in the book of Judges in the Bible, we learn the story of Samson and Delilah. Samson was blinded by his emotional attachment to Delilah, ignored every red flag. Her intentions were clear from the very start. She persistently asked him about the secret of his strength, and Samson, full of pride, and perhaps he was just a little naive, played along, feeding her false answers at first. And the craziest thing about this part is Delilah continued to test whatever it is that he said. So if he said, well, if you tie me with this, then I'll lose my strength, Delilah would test that theory and then get upset and whine. And Samson continued this until he didn't. But Delilah was relentless. She nagged, cried, and manipulated Samson until he finally broke. Judges chapter 16, verse 17 says, "So he told her everything. No razor has ever been used on my head, because I have been a Nazarite dedicated to God from my mother's womb. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me." That night as Samson slept on Delilah's lap, she called a Philistine to shave his hair, which successfully stripped him of his strength and broke his covenant with God. And when Samson woke up, they captured him, gouged out his eyes, and took him prisoner. Delilah walked away with her payment, leaving Samson broken and enslaved. So what can we learn from this story? Samson's downfall wasn't just about Delilah's betrayal. It was about his inability to see the truth about who she really was. His emotional detachment blinded him to the obvious. Her loyalty was not with him, but with those who sought to destroy him. The danger of emotional attachment. When we allow our emotions to cloud our judgment, we open ourselves to manipulation. Samson ignored each sign, the constant questioning, her connection to his enemies, and her lack of respect for his faith. In our lives, we have to ask, are we allowing ourselves to stay attached to people who don't have our best interest at heart? Samson believed he was untouchable. His pride convinced him that he could play games with Delilah and still remain strong. But pride blinds us to our vulnerabilities. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18 says, "Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall." This is a reminder that we often have moments where we are going to see clearly what it is that we're supposed to do. And that pride that presents itself before we do what's needed comes right before the fall. Are we relying on our own strength instead of God's guidance? Another thing to learn from this is the importance of discernment. The Bible tells us to guard our hearts. That's Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. Samson didn't guard his heart or his purpose, and it cost him everything. We need discernment to recognize when someone's actions don't align with their words. Samson's story doesn't end with his downfall, though. While in captivity, he repented and cried out to God, and God restored his strength one last time so he could defeat the Philistines. It's a reminder that even when we make mistakes, God's grace is greater. But imagine what Samson could have achieved if he had guarded his heart and stayed aligned with God's purpose from the very beginning. So let this story encourage you to seek discernment in your relationships, trusting God's wisdom and protecting the calling that he has for you by following his commands. Number one being, let's just try not to be unequally yoked with individuals who do not even belong on that same path with us. Don't let emotional attachments lead you into the hands of those who don't value your worth or purpose. So if this message resonates, share your thoughts in the comment section below. and let's keep the conversation going. And as always, do not forget to subscribe.